Rajen Shah, Chief Investment Advisor at Tradebulls, joins in with his views. Rajan, we've been talking about the impact of GST. Highlight one investment opportunity that you clearly see where the full effect of GST has not been priced in. For consumption logistic companies, I still have seen a rally. Any other space where there is still a value-adjusted bias?
Well, in consumption, Tanveer, actually, I think tea is one sector or segment where there is a huge amount of unorganized market actually, and I think that will be impacted. The organized players will benefit. So I think tea in this segment, Tata Global is one stock which has not participated. If you see, during the days of demonetization, the stock had come down from a level of about 154 to 130 or so, and it's currently at about 145, 146. So it's hardly participated in this move which we saw in the market from levels of 27,000 to 31,000 some plus. So I think Tata Global Beverage, which is quoting at about, I think based on current year earnings, this year we are expecting about 9 rupees kind of earnings. So it's trading at about 15 and a half times or maybe 16 times the earning. I think for FMCG company, this is very cheap because you have Lever, ITC or even other companies like Procter & Gamble, Godrej Consumer, Dabur, Marico, all quoting at about 25, 30, 35 times the earning, and here you are getting this company for 15 times. Secondly, they have investment in Tata Chemical, which is about 630 crores. So I think that could get unlocked because the Tata group is now focused on selling cross holdings. So probably we could see that amount coming into Tata Global Beverage, which is also a debt-free company, which has got 500 crore of cash already sitting on the balance sheet. And I think big plans for Starbucks also could see the stock getting back into action, because we didn't see any much rollout of Starbucks last year. So I think with now N. Chandra at the helm of affairs in Tata Sons, I think Tata Global could be an interesting play. And globally also, if you see beverage company like Pepsi, Coke or Starbucks, they are trading at anywhere between 3 to 5 times the sales. Starbucks is currently quoting at about, I think, 4.5 times the sales internationally I'm talking about. And in India, you are getting Tata Global for just about 1 time. Revenue is about 9,000 crore, market cap is about around 9,000 crore. So you're getting it for 1 time the sales, which is absolutely dirt cheap. Globally, companies trade at this kind of valuation, and even in India, FMCG companies are at about 4-5 times the sales. Here is the company which derives almost 70% of its turnover from branded sales, and it's trading at just 1 time. So I think there is a huge amount of re-rating possible in Tata Global Beverage. This is a stock which can actually multiply. I'm not looking at about levels of 225 or 250 or 300. I think this stock has a potential to touch 450. It may sound very astonishing and surprising to quote this kind of figure for Tata Global, but I am pretty confident that this number would be achievable in the next 3-4 years.
Okay, stay with us, Rajan. Let's focus in on the banking space as well, with India's largest lender, SBI, all set to meet investors at the AGM today. Neha Bothra joins us from the location to give us some perspective on the day's agenda and what's lined up, Neha.
The stage is set for India's largest bank, State Bank of India, to address investors in the annual general meeting. Of course, do remember this will be very special because this will be the last time Arundhati Bhattacharya will address investors as chair of State Bank of India. Do remember she's resigning in just about a couple of months. As far as investors are concerned, they are braving the pouring rains and coming in all excited to hear from the lady herself. As far as interest areas are concerned, one of course is the numerics of the merger that is likely to pan out by way of understanding how really the matrix will be as far as absorbing human resources is concerned, and what other changes to expect as far as the bank is concerned overall. Apart from this, do remember that the bank has raised a large sum of money via the QIP route, and this time at the AGM, investors will get a chance to ask the management how they intend to deploy these funds going forward. What kind of capital cushion are they looking to build going forward? And of course, the spotlight will be on the bank's fight as far as the NPA mess is concerned. What really the bank plans to do, considering that RBI is now empowered, and thus banks are more empowered as far as negotiating with errant borrowers is concerned. That would be interesting commentary coming in today, as of course, which are the other areas that State Bank of India wants to grow in. As far as the corporate book is concerned, the retail book is concerned, we'll get more clarity on that. all in all, investors very excited, and of course many of them are very sentimental as well, because this will be the last time Arundhati Bhattacharya will address these investors in the annual general meeting.
Thanks, Neha, for that. Rajan, it's interesting that Ms. Bhattacharya addresses shareholders at the annual general meeting at a time when PSU banks are grappling with consolidation pressure, cleanup pressure, and also the pressure for raising more capital.
Well, Tanvir, I am not a big fan of this PSUs. They have hardly delivered anything actually, and during the earlier tenure of the UPA government, I would call these banks charitable trust run by certain at that point of time the government to fund businessmen like JP Associates, Bhushan Steel, Vijay Malaya and all that. So I was always never a fan of this PSUs. I have been a fan in the finance sector. I have been fan of Aditya Birla Novo, which has given us fabulous return. We also at one point of time owned Bajaj Finserv, which has delivered very good returns. So insurance was one sector which I had liked, and the sector which I like in the finance space currently is NBFC, and the stock to watch is Mahindra and Mahindra Finance, which I have spoken a couple of times on your channel. I think the stock has corrected quite well, 392, almost level of about 330. Another 5-10% downside, and I think the stock deserves to be having a significant weightage in the portfolio, because if your time frame is 3-5 years, I think this is a very interesting rural story which we will be seeing in the strong growth in the bottom line of Mahindra and Mahindra Finance for the next 3, 5, 10 years. So I don't think so. If I am given a choice of PSU banks and NBFC run by a quality management, certainly I would look out for solid management like Mahindra and Mahindra, solid growth plans. PSU banks, ultimately are run by professionals, not the owners of the company. So, and plus we have hardly seen anything, so I am not a fan of PSU banks or even private banks for that matter,
Okay, time to get in some perspective as to what exactly the dealing rooms as well are flagging off. We've got Pankaj as well as Pranay joining in from our research team to throw some light on what the dealing room chatter reflects. And Pankaj, we'll start off with you.
Well, Aman, what I can pick up is that there is strong accumulation happening in Grasim as well as Aditya Birla Novo. Remember, the record date is out, so both the companies will merge pretty soon. Institutions are buying ahead of the mega merger. They had that big analyst meet over the weekend, that is for the Aditya Birla Financial Services business. And JP Morgan after that for Grasim says that listing of the financial arm in August will be a very key catalyst for the company. They see holding discount of Grasim, which is currently 45%, declining quite significantly. Shriram Transport is the next one that I can pick up. So there's a long only fund which is continuously buying Shriram Transport Finance. It's a FII fund that continues to buy. So FII desk is largely in terms of interest into this name. There is a buzz of strong corporate action within the company. However, there's no confirmation on that. India Cements, this is a stock that we have been reporting earlier for a buy news. Now, since April 18th, that's in the last 3 months or rather 2.5 months, the stock is up 38%. What I can pick up today is there is a lot of FNO action. Most of the HNI trader category seem to be booking profits into this stock, and that's why this is down 6%. Volumes are very high. We'll be tracking the delivery volumes once the data is out.
All right, thanks for that, Pankaj. We also need to get in some more perspective on when dealers are approaching the last few minutes of the session. Pranay joins us with his insights. Pranay?
Well, Tanvir, dealers are actually recommending traders to be a little cautious. Amongst the safer names, Max Financial Services is one where a couple of institutional desks are indicating of steady accumulation. This is just as a process of finalization of merger details which with HDFC Life is getting underway, so therefore they believe that there is a good upside over here. Also, KPIT Tech and Dish TV, a couple of defensive names which are seeing short covering on the FNO panel right now, but this is being recommended only as a short-term trade with a 4 to 5% kind of upside in the next few days. Lastly, BEML and Granules, these two stocks are now cracking in trade, and dealers are recommending to sell these largely on technical trends. Also on the FNO side, for both these, you are seeing short build-up with 15 to 20% kind of open interest, so you can expect continued downside at least over the next couple of sessions.
Okay, thanks very much, Pankaj and Pranay, for joining in with a view on what dealing rooms are chatting about. Let's get into those 320 closing strategies from our technical experts as well. I'm going to come to you first, Manas.
see two sell recommendations. First is granules, where stock broke its 200-day moving average. It is making lower tops and lower bottoms, and from here stock can test 122. So here one can go short with stop loss of 132. Second is the sell call on Syndicate Bank, where stock broke its 200-day moving average. So possibility is high that stock can test at least 69 tomorrow. So here one can go short with a stop loss of 74.50.
All right. Siddharth, come to you. What is it that you'd recommend?
So if you look at Aditya Birla Novo, the stock is doing quite well. And I had this buy call, a few days back, and I was anticipating stock would move higher. The pace and the volumes in last 3 trading sessions are very interesting. It has given a breakout above 1750. I understand that there's a lot of dynamics related to merger which is playing out, but it clearly seems that stock is moving towards 1900, 2000 odd levels. So even at current levels, I would suggest to go long in Aditya Birla Novo with a stop loss somewhere around say 1740 or so.
What about you, Kunal?
Avan, I would go with a buy on Tata Steel. Now, I think in the morning also I had flagged out this call that Tata Steel seems to be one of the stronger names in the middle pack, and in the entire last 3 days of market correction of 150-200 points on the index. This is one stock which is still holding on to its upper end of the trading range, trading at 5-10 levels odd. I believe this could be a good contra buying opportunity or a trend buying opportunity for Tata Steel at current levels. Would look out for targets of 525, keep a stop loss of 500 and look to go long.
Dr. Narayan, what about you?
Well, a short in Just Dial at the current price of 378 is what I would recommend. Stock continues to witness consistent pressure, not able to get up or pull out into any sort of rally which would suggest at least some shorts getting covered or some adventurous buying coming in. In the absence of any of these emerging, I think further pressure down till about 365 or to 360 zone seems to be on the cards in a day or so. So short Just Dial 378, current price up to about 380, stop loss at 385.
Okay, there you have it, some top trading calls coming in from our guests. Rajan, let's talk about the FMCG sector in particular, and with respect to the impact from GST, how do you see life changing?
I don't see much changes, actually, if you see, there are the rates are plus or minus of the earlier rates, so I don't see any major impact on any of the sectors, So no specific, except for, as I mentioned earlier, the tea sector, where there is a huge unorganized market which will have to shift to organized, and probably they'll have to bear the taxes and all these things, and this would benefit the existing player, because the price differential between the organized and the unorganized player would narrow down significantly, in fact come down to almost nil. So I think that is one space we like. Otherwise in most of the other space, I think there's hardly any price differential between the earlier thing and the current new GST rates,
Okay, Rajan, give us your perspective on how you would be looking at, some of the logistic companies at these levels. Would you still be a buyer?
Well, Tanveer, very frankly, I don't own any of the logistics stocks, so, and plus I don't track it very closely. So at this point of time, would not refrain from commenting on it.
Let's talk about some of the stocks that are continuing to reel under pressure today. The mid and the small cap indices have seen their biggest single day correction in the last 1 month in trade today, and there's a number of stocks which are coming under pressure. Of course, we've highlighted most of them, but the likes of GMR Infra, Jyoti Structures down and out, Built, Dredging Corp, JK Tires, as well as the banks. You've got Amtech, Auto, Monnet Ispat and India Bulls Ventures as well under pressure. But the ADAG pack is fairly resilient at a time like this. So let's get in a quick call, Manas, as to what you're doing with the ADAG names.
So only one stock I am liking in this space, that is Reliance Capital, because on the daily chart it is making higher tops and higher bottoms. We have seen a smart recovery from the level of 525. It is trading above 50-day moving average, and the potential target comes near to 695. So here definitely one can take a long call and keep the stop loss below 645.
Okay, come in then, Siddharth, as to what the outlook is on Built.
No, I'm not tracking it closely, so I won't be able to comment.
Okay, fine. Let's get in a view on some of those on some of those brokerage stocks, by the way. Kunal, I wonder if you've been having a look at the kind of trend that we've been seeing for the last many days, the likes of Edelweiss, Geojit, BNP, etc.
Yes,
and Motilal Oswal as well.
Yes, Avan. In fact, couple of days back, in fact, last week, start of last week, I'd mentioned that many of these stocks, they look quite strong on daily charts. But the kind of reverse, the kind of means, the longer term means or the longer term averages, and the kind of difference which the stocks were trading was almost 85 to 95% or almost 100% in many of these cases. So what I'm trying to say is that stocks were trading almost 100% away from those long term averages, and that generally happens in a strong euphoric move. And once you see some correction, creeping in, the correction tends to be more sharper in nature. I believe that maybe over the next couple of weeks, not from a short-term perspective, but maybe in the next 3 to 4 weeks, I would believe that this correction for the brokerage come NBFC names, for stocks like Edelweiss, Motilal Oswal, etc. I think they could correct another 10 to 15 further from current levels. Given the kind of chart structure they were shaping up a couple of weeks back, and the divergence from the longer term means. So I would probably believe that over the next couple of weeks, if anyone is looking to say look at a good entry point, maybe another 10 to 15% lower is where these stocks could probably offer up some good counter buying opportunities. Not at this price, because I believe that there could be more correction in store for them.
Okay, let's start wrapping up the market. We're seeing the markets be cautious ahead of expiry, ahead of GST implementation. Down about 0.6% for the benchmark indices, down about 1.5% for the broader markets. IOC, GAIL, Hero MotoCorp, Bharti Airtel, ONGC hold out. Among losers, Bank of Baroda, ACC, Z Entertainment, Autotech Cement are weaker in the session. SBI, BPCL, Bosch, HCL Tech, Indiabulls Housing Finance, all of them lose ground.
Okay, let's focus in on the broader end of the market, where the situation is far more grave, with the mid and the small cap indices seeing far deeper gashes in the session. The broader markets have seen a deep cut today, severely underperforming the frontliners, going home with a cut of 1.5% plus. The list of losers is extensive, and across the board you've seen selling pressure coming in. So be it the PSU banks, media, realty, the Nifty bank, which ends at 23,222, IT or finance. Nothing's really been spared, barring a mild gain for the energy sector. So a quick roundup of what's on the losing radar, and it's pretty much everything. Let's start off with the banks. And PNB, Canara Bank, the entire banking lot, particularly some of those PSU names, have seen acute selling pressure kicking in. Allahabad Bank, Syndicate Bank, Indian Bank, BOB, Andhra, OBC, the entire lot, and nothing has been spared in trade today. Other than that, you have the cement pack, which is under pressure. So we focused on the large caps, and from the mid caps, the likes of Sagar Cements, India Cement, Shri Cement, all of those stocks lose steam. The PSUs as well, the likes of Dredging Corp, BEML, BEL end in the red. JK Tires down 5% plus. Monnet Ispat loses steam. Built is in the red. Peninsula Land and Indiabulls Ventures, along with the other brokerage stocks, are down and out in the session. The JP groups of stocks is up and away. You've got Unitech, which bucks the trend. Orbit Corp gaining traction. The entire ADNG basket, which looks pretty smart. So RelCap, Relcom, etc. in the green. GSPL, HEG, Adani Enterprises, and Wockhardt gains about 3.5%. But today's trading session was definitely a wake-up call to the kind of caution that is prevailing in the markets, and the kind of trepidation with which the market is moving to the all-important GST reform, which will garner much more clarity by the end of this week. 95.10 on the Nifty, Sensex down 174 points. Closing comments then from our guests. And Rajen, that's exactly the point that we'd like to focus on. There is a lot of preparedness from the government side with respect to GST, a lot of steps that are being concretely taken in that direction, but a lot of clarity still remains from the customers' the point of view, the public's point of view. What exactly is your view as to how prepared we really are?
Well, that only time will show. I am not the right person to comment on how well we are prepared. But this kind of things, it's something which is unknown actually, So the markets are also reacting, and plus the markets had also run up, So one of the strategies what I would suggest to investors is that, there's a lot of irrationality in the market right now. So take advantage of that irrationality. Like there is a certain segment which is richly valued, and there is a certain segment which is being given stepmotherly treatment. Just to give an example, there is this company called CCL Products. Okay, it's trading at 27 times the earning, and there is this company Tata Coffee. Both are manufacturing coffee. There's a company called Tata Coffee which is trading at 16 times the earning. So take the advantage of the market, sell expensive shares, get into companies which are well managed and shares are not run up so much, and you will end up making good amount of money, because this all unknown gives you an opportunity. GST is giving you an opportunity to get in the market. This correction is going to be a shallow correction. It's not going to be a very deep cut, because we are in a bull market. So take advantage of this opportunity.
Okay. Rajan, we'll let you go at that. Thanks very much for taking the time to speak with us today. Really appreciate your views and your insights. Closing comments from our technical guest, Dr. Narayan. How would you approach trade for the rest of the week?
Well, when the